It's my pleasure this morning to have in this series I'm calling Reflections from Pharmacy Leaders Advancing the Profession, William Ellis with us, who is Executive Director of the BPS, the Board of Pharmacy Specialties, which is affiliated with APHA. He previously was CEO and Executive Director of the APHA Foundation, and he was also Executive Vice President of Pennsylvania Society of Health System Pharmacists, is where I got to meet and interact with Bill. He has served as chair of the Council on Credentialing in Pharmacy, and he's also a past chair of the National Commission for Certifying Agency. He started his career in organizational involvement when he completed an executive residency with ASHP. So welcome, Bill Ellis.
Thank you, Terry. I appreciate the invitation to join the group today.
Thank you. So we'll start off. We'd like to learn about your journey as you developed in your career to your current leadership position. And when reflecting on your journey, you may wish to include key events that shaped or influenced your journey, or people who influence you in your journey.
So I would say that in my career, sometimes people, have these very set 5-year, 10-year goals. I can't say that I really set out on my career that way. If I enjoyed the work I was doing, I felt like it was meaningful, made a difference, I kind of followed that path. And then sort of intuition would tell me when an opportunity may be to shift. And I haven't shifted a whole lot in my career, but I think as I go back, it started with my pharmacy education at the Philadelphia College of Pharmacy and Science. I had great mentors and role models there in people like John Gans, who was on faculty at the time, Phil Garbino, George Downs. So coming up and through that experience in pharmacy school made a big difference. And then another key point for me was while I was on campus at PCP, as it was referred to in those days, I got involved in the Student American Pharmacist Association. And I was fortunate enough to get involved and run for and be elected to national office. And that at that point in time, and I think I was probably in my P3 or P4 year, got exposed to the fact that there were actually pharmacists that worked for national organizations. And that kind of piqued my interest. And I was able to do an elective rotation at the New Jersey Pharmacist Association, which further cemented my interest in pharmacy work through associations. Then completing that year and graduating, I applied for the ASHP executive residency program and spent a year in the executive residency at ASHP. And when I went into that program, the goal for me was to see, is this something that I think I may want to do beyond that? Because it's a big difference serving as a volunteer officer in an organization and another thing being on staff. So I took that year to really try to discern whether I thought I wanted to continue in a staff role, and I did. And fortunately, at that time, it was the mid-'80s, the Pennsylvania Society of Health System Pharmacists was looking for their first executive director, and I had applied, and I guess we both agreed to take a risk on each other because I was pretty young at the time, and then served in that role and had great support there from the volunteer leaders. I think of many people, but Patty Keenly comes to mind right away in supporting my work there as a very, very young executive. And one of the things I think I learned in that job that I want to share with the group that's important is you have to know what you don't know. And believe me, there was a lot I didn't know coming in, probably in, I'm thinking probably my mid-20s at that point. And so there was a lot of pressure to have all the answers, and I learned pretty early on that you're not going to have all the answers, and I've learned that throughout the rest of my career. You're never going to have all the answers. So that was kind of a key experience for me. And I was there probably close to 12 or so years. And John Gans, if you recall, who was a mentor while I was a student at that time, had just taken the job at the American Pharmacist Association as their CEO, and asked me if I wanted to talk to them about a position in their foundation. And that's what led me, after 12 or 13 years at the state level, to go to APHA's foundation. And we had some really exciting things going on at that time around one project, Project Impact Hyperlipidemia, which involved pharmacist point of care testing. Later on, we got involved in things like the Asheville Project. And so it was just a wonderful opportunity. And I was there, I think, probably another 11 or 12 years, one of the last things that I had worked on was the fundraising for the construction of the new APHA headquarters building. And so once we had completed that, and it was kind of a good time for me to assess what might be next. And interestingly enough, one of the people that I onboarded with a decade or so before was Dick Burton, who at that time had left the public health service and was running the Board of Pharmacy Specialties. And so I had talked to Dick about his impending retirement and what they were looking for in the position. Kind of fascinated me. A lot of people said, well, you know, that looks very different. And to me, it wasn't different, because the work we were doing in the ASRO project and Project Impact were pharmacists on the cutting edge. And I quickly figured out that board certified pharmacists tend to be on the leading edge of patient care. And that was really interesting to me. And it was also a professional challenge. I had some exposure to certification, but not necessarily a lot. And it was an opportunity for me to grow professionally and learn. So that ultimately led me to apply and be selected, fortunately, for the Board of Pharmacy Specialties, where I've been for the last 10 years. So again, I didn't write all this out on paper. I've just kind of followed my gut, my instinct. And if I feel like the work is challenging and rewarding, then that's kind of what my compass has been. And so I think it's a little bit different for everyone. And the thing that struck me, and I don't know whether you found this in pharmacy, a lot of us got into our positions almost by serendipity. Kind of chance events or things or discussions that you've had with people. And I've had a lot of great mentors over the years. When I was at ASHP, Joe Otis was the executive vice president. Mary Jo Riley was my preceptor. People like Bill Zomer were there. And so I've been very, very fortunate to be exposed to some just great leaders and thinkers who always challenge me. And I think that's one of the things that's helped me a lot in my career.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Bill, for that. So the next question has to do, what do you believe is going to be your legacy in 20 years? And that's often daunting to people, so I'll rephrase that. What are you most proud of in terms of your contributions that has helped advance the profession?
Yeah, you know, that's a great question. It's not one that I tend to think about a lot. I will share with this group something that I really haven't shared publicly, but it's sort of a personal mission statement that I have. I guess I'm going to share it publicly now. Is that, you know, I kind of believe you may or may not be able to change the world, but you certainly have the ability to change someone's world. And when I think about that, that kind of focuses me on a day-to-day kind of activity, and I tend not to look too far in advance. I guess if you look back on my career, I would hope that when all this is done, whenever that is, that I have left the profession in a better place from where I found it. And that can take a lot of different, you know, shapes and sizes and forms, and I guess history will tell what that is, but I've always tried to advocate for pharmacists and also really not losing sight of the patients that we all strive to serve. So in supporting pharmacists, I want to support pharmacists' ability to advance patient care. And I guess if there's that theme that's been through my career, that's pretty much been the theme that I've tried to focus on. And I think that all of us, as we go forward, hope that maybe if we can all leave the profession in a little bit better shape, one way or the other, that would be a good contribution. So I hope that that's what I'm remembered for at some point in the future.
Very good. Thank you very much for that. So the next question has to do advice for students in their professional journey as they develop as leaders to help advance the profession.
So that's something that I actually have been thinking quite a bit about in a broader sense. So I've got a little book project that I'm working on that I hope that I'll finish up in the next year. And the whole theme of it is to try to avoid the I've arrived trap. And I think you get into the I've arrived trap when you work hard to progress to a goal and you're there and you say, hey, this is great, I'm here, the world can stop, and I'm going to sit back and enjoy this ride because I've arrived. And I think the day that you think you've arrived and you stop striving and you stop learning is when you're in trouble. So I think for students, the idea going for all of us really is, I don't think you can ever be stagnant. You always have to look to grow and challenge. And if you have a growth mindset, I think you'll avoid a lot of problems. The world changes. I mean, as we're recording this, we're still in the throes of COVID-19. Who saw that coming? And even in the absence of some worldwide pandemic, I think if you look back on things, things aren't going to stay the same. And we always have to challenge ourselves to say, where are there new opportunities? Where do I need to continue to grow personally, professionally, people skills, professional skills? So I think in our profession, we've talked a lot about continuous professional development, and I think sometimes maybe we've paid lip service to it, where we really need to think deeply personally about where there's ways to grow and evolve. And so I would say to students, I know, and I do remember this, even though it's been some years, you want to get through pharmacy school, and that's a hurdle, and then you want to, pass your boards, and you want to maybe go through residency, and you look at these, and there's significant hurdles. And it's not to say that when you achieve one of those goals that you don't take a few minutes to sit back and enjoy it, but don't get stuck there. Think about what the next thing is going to be. If we go back, I mean, people often say this in BPS, they'll look at the pharmacotherapy specialty, which is the largest specialty. And sometimes people say to me, well, testing after a PGY1, that's a pretty low bar. And I said, but you got to remember, when that specialty was established, PGY1s were pretty rare. So the world changes and it evolves. Today, as we're recording this, you think about things like artificial intelligence and what impact is that going to have. So I guess I would say to students, don't stay stagnant, and don't ever rest on your laurels like you've arrived and everything is just going to fast forward at this same rate for any number of years, because the world changes. So that's kind of, I wish I had some really golden pearl, but I would say that would be it. Adopt a growth mindset, and you'll put yourself in a good position going forward.
Very good. Thank you very much, Bill, for that. And the final question, as this is in, these interviews will be embedded in a history course as we look at the evolution of the profession. As we study the decades of the 2020s, a key event will be the COVID-19 pandemic. Like other events that have shaped our history, there's been many events that have shaped our history, that will be an event that will shape our history and will be an opportunity for the profession. So how do you see that shaping our history and also an opportunity for our profession?
Well, I think that COVID-19 has certainly cemented pharmacists' roles as being frontline first responders, and the importance of their accessibility in the community, whether that's in a community pharmacy setting, whether that's in a clinic, whether that's in a hospital, is just critically important. And I don't think this has changed. And of course, as we sit here talking today, we haven't come up with, a vaccine or any great armamentarium treatment. But you know what? Medicines have always been our primary weapon against disease. And I think that's been reinforced. I know I see our infectious disease specialists within BPS extremely active, but I've also seen pharmacists from other specialties moving into direct patient care roles because there's a need there. So I hope that history will show that pharmacists are a critical and really essential part of any healthcare team. Maybe this has highlighted it, and I think the profession itself has stepped up right from the beginning. And I hope that that's not lost. Maybe that will help drive our march towards provider status. There's a lot of factors, but maybe that reinforces that. So to me, I'm not surprised. I mean, I'm sure you're not either, that pharmacists have stepped up because they see their role in assuring the public health and access to services as being critical. And a lot of what's not being talked about here that maybe we'll find out about a little bit on the back end of this is, with all this emphasis on COVID-19, as it should be, we can't forget about the management of chronic disease. And pharmacists and managing those medications are important. So we've also seen some rise in telehealth services, which I think is an exciting area and opportunity for that patient contact and communication. Because at the end, regardless of your practice setting, and even if it's on the phone or behind a computer, it's all about making sure that patient knows how to make the best use of their medication. So I hope that people will collect and record some of that data and track some of those outcomes, and then that can be part of our story after this pandemic has passed.
Very good. Thank you very much, Bill. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for your insights.
No, I appreciate being able to share that, and appreciate you having me on.
Thank you.